They laughed at her because it was easy, because she wore an apron instead of body armor, because her hands smelled like onions and diesel stoves, not gun oil, because her duty station was the mess hall, the loudest, hottest, least respected building on the entire forward operating base. Her name was Corporal Elena Ward, but almost no one used it. They called her Cook. Not kindly. "Hey, Cook, you burn the eggs again? Cook, you planning to fight the war with a frying pan? Careful, boys, she'll season us to death." She smiled through it. Always did. Because arguing didn't change rank, and rank didn't change opinions. And opinions, once set, were heavier than body-armored. FOB Red Mesa sat in the dust like a forgotten scar, miles from anything green, surrounded by low ridgelines that never felt empty, even when surveillance said they were. The base was supposed to be safe. Reinforced barriers, watchtowers, patrol schedules timed down to the minute. And yet, every soldier there slept lightly. Elena had arrived 6 months earlier, transferred after an injury, took her off active patrol duty. A shattered ankle from a vehicle rollover. The kind of injury that healed just enough to pass medical, but not enough to trust under fired SO. They put her in the kitchen. She didn't complain. T0430 every morning before the sun cracked the horizon. She was already awake. Coffee brewing. Generators humming. The mess hall lights flickering to life while most of the base still lived in that half-dream space between exhaustion and routine. She cooked like it mattered. Because it did. Calories kept men alive. Warm food kept morale standing when everything else tried to crush it. She learned everyone's habits, who needed extra sugar, who skipped breakfast before patrol, who stared too long at nothing while chewing. She noticed things others didn't, like how the perimeter guard in Tower 3 had started rubbing his neck constantly, like how convoy routes changed twice in 1 week without explanation, like how the radio chatter at night had become quieter. Too cleaned as she'd been infantry once. She remembered what quiet meant, but when she mentioned it, the response was always the same. "You're overthinking it, Cook. Stick to the kitchen. Let command worry about security." So she did. Outwardly. Inside, she stayed sharp. She still ran drills alone behind the supply sheds, ankles screaming, but steady. Still cleaned her old service rifle once a week, even though regulations said she didn't need to anymore. Still slept with her boots lined perfectly beside her cot, just in case. The day it happened started like every other. Burnt toast complaints, jokes shouted across steel tables, that a young private asking for seconds like it was the last meal on Earth. T0817. The first explosion hit. Not close enough to knock her down, just close enough to make every instinct she'd ever trained under scream. The floor shuddered. Trays rattled. Coffee sloshed over metal rims. For half a second, the base froze, then the alarms came alive. Incoming. Incoming. Incoming mortars, precision-timed. Walking toward the outer perimeter, someone yelled, "Contact east." Another voice. "Where the hell is QRF?" The power flickered, once, then died. Emergency red lights bathed the mess hall in blood-colored shadow. Elena didn't scream. She moved. She shoved the civilians, contractors, drivers, clerks, toward the reinforced storage room. "Move. Now. Head down. Stay together." A sergeant tried to take control, shouting orders that collided with chaos. Then the second blast hit closer. Too close. The windows shattered inward. Smoke poured through the hall like a living thing. And through it all, Elena felt the shift. This wasn't harassment fire. This was an assault. She grabbed the wall radio. Dead out, of course it was. Outside, gunfire started, sharp, sustained, not warning shots. Someone breached the wire. Her heart didn't race till IT settled. She pulled off the apron. IT felt heavier than any vest she'd ever worn. She dropped it on the floor, stepped over broken glass, and ran. The armory was locked. Protocol. She slammed her shoulder into the steel door once. Twice. Pain flared through her ankle. She ignored it. A corporal from logistics skidded around the corner, eyes wide. "They're inside the perimeter." "I know," she said, calm as morning coffee. She reached under the bench where no one ever looked, pulled out the rifle. Her rifle, she'd never turn it in. Paperwork got lost all the time. She chambered around. The sound cut through the noise like a memory snapping back into place. Outside, Red Mesa was burning. Smoke columns clawed into the sky. One watchtower was already down, snapped at the base like a broken tooth. Soldiers scrambled, returning fire towards shadows moving fast between structures. Too fast. These weren't amateurs. Elena dropped behind a barrier, took a breath, and assessed. Enemy movement pattern. Angles of fire. Friendly positions falling back. She saw the mistake immediately. The attackers weren't pushing for command. They were pushing for logistics, fuel, ammo, food. Starve the base, then finish it. Smart. She keyed her radio again. Still dead. Fine, she muttered. I'll do it myself. She moved low, fast, using smoke and wreckage like she'd never left patrol. Her ankle protested, but adrenaline drowned it out that a pair of enemy fighters broke from cover ahead. Rifles up, confident. They didn't expect resistance from the mess hall side. Elena exhaled .2 shots, controlled. Clean. They dropped before their weapons finished rising. She didn't pause, didn't celebrate, just moved. Behind her, someone shouted, "Who the hell is that?" She reached the fuel depot just as another squad of attackers poured through the breach. Too many. She took position behind a damaged truck, fired in bursts, forcing them to scatter. Rounds cracked overhead. Metal screamed that a bullet grazed her shoulder. Hot, sharp, but she stayed upright, because stopping meant dying, and dying meant the base fell. She shouted orders without realizing it. Left flank, suppress. Fall back to cover. Don't bunch up. And somehow, they listened. Soldiers who had mocked her hours earlier now moved when she spoke. Because under fire, rank mattered less than clarity. The depot held, barely. When QRF finally arrived, armored and furious, they found Elena kneeling in the dust, rifle braced, eyes scanning for movement like the fight might restart at any second. Her hands were steady. Her apron was still lying in the mess hall, untouched. Later, much later, as medics wrapped her shoulder and command tried a piece. Together what had almost happened, a captain approached her. "You were the cook," he said, disbelief thick in his voice. She looked up at him. "I still am," she replied. "I just don't burn under pressure." The base survived because everyone underestimated refused to forget who she was. This story continues in part 2, where the truth about Elena's past comes out, command faces hard questions, and the enemy makes one final, desperate move that forces her to choose between the kitchen she was given and the soldier she never stopped being. Subscribe to the channel Her Brave Stripes for powerful military stories of courage, sacrifice, and underestimated heroes. Speech balloon, tell us in the comments. Where are you watching from? Your country, your city? We read every comment. The sun had already dipped behind the ridgeline when the shooting finally stopped. Not the clean kind of silence that meant safety, but the heavy, ringing quiet that followed violence, when ears still buzzed and the air smelled like burned metal and dust. FOB Red Mesa looked wounded. Smoke drifted lazily from a collapsed watchtower. A fuel truck burned down to its frame. Medics moved fast, stepping around shell casings and shattered concrete, calling out names that sometimes answered and sometimes didn't. Elena Ward sat on an overturned ammo crate near the fuel depot, rifle resting across her knees like it belonged there, because it did. Her shoulder throbbed where the round had torn through muscle, but she barely noticed. Pain was background noise. What she couldn't ignore were the looks. They came from everywhere. Soldiers who had laughed at her that morning now stared like they were seeing a ghost. A legend. Or maybe just the truth, the uncomfortable kind that rewrites how you judge people that a lieutenant stopped a few steps away, helmet under his arm. "Mom? Corporal." Corporal is fine," Elena said without looking up. He swallowed. "Command wants to see you." She nodded once and stood. Her ankle screamed this time, sharp and unforgiving, but she masked it easily. Years of training didn't disappear just because someone reassigned you to a kitchen. The command bunker still smelled of dust and overheated electronics. Maps glowed on damaged screens. Radios crackled with broken transmissions from outlying patrols. Colonel Hayes stood at the center, jaw tight, eyes red with fatigue. "You held the fuel depot," he said flatly. "Yes, sir." With a handful of logistics personnel, and 2 riflemen. Yes, sir. He studied her for a long moment. Why weren't you on the roster? Elena met his gaze. Because 6 months ago, I rolled a vehicle on route iron. Ankle didn't heal clean. Medical cleared me for limited duty. Command reassigned me. Silence stretched. And before that, Hayes asked. She didn't hesitate. 2nd Infantry Battalion. Rifle Squad Leader. That landed heavier than any explosion. One of the majors muttered. Jesus. Hayes exhaled slowly. You never corrected anyone. No one asked, sir. That was the problem, wasn't it? They hadn't looked. Intel officers stepped in, reports in hand. The attack hadn't been random. The enemy had studied Red Mesa for weeks. They knew patrol gaps, supply locations, shift changes. Someone had assumed the mess hall side was weak. They'd been right, just not weak enough. Elena was cleared by medical only after she argued her way through half the tent. They wanted her on a stretcher. She wanted ammo. The second wave came just after midnight. The IT started quieter, and no mortars, no alarms, just a single suppressed shot near the western fence. Then another. Elena felt it before anyone said a word, the tension snapping tight like a wire about to break. She was already moving when the first tracer lit the dark. This time, they came coordinated, multiple breach points. Smoke. Night visioned at a professional assault. And this time, they were hunting her. She knew at the moment rounds stitched the cover she'd used earlier. Too precise, too intentional that they'd lost people. Someone had reported back. The cook who fought like infantry. She repositioned, firing and moving, never staying still long enough to be bracketed. Her ankle faltered once, nearly sending her down. But she caught herself and kept going. She linked up with a fire team pinned near the motor pool. Ammo count, she barked low. Then we don't miss. They followed her lead instinctively now. No hositashin. No doubt. She led them through maintenance corridors and storage lanes she knew better than anyone, because she'd hauled food crates through them every damn day. An enemy squad tried to flank through the supply shed. Bad choice. Elena triggered the emergency fuel suppressant. White foam exploding outward, blinding and choking. .3 silhouettes stumbled out. They didn't make it far. The fighting dragged on, minute by minute, until the attackers finally broke contact and vanished into the dark hills. They'd crawled out of. Dawn came quietly. Too quietly. The casualty count was heavy, but Red Mesa still stood, and so did Elena. She was sitting on the steps of the mess hall when the colonel found her again. Her apron lay beside her now, torn and dusty, like a relic from another life. You saved this base, Hayes said. She shook her head. Everyone here did. He crouched slightly, lowering his voice. I failed to see what was in front of me. She met his eyes. A lot of people do. That morning, for the first time since she'd arrived, no one joked in the mess hall. They lined up quietly, respectfully. When Elena served breakfast, bandaged, tired, still standing, soldiers thanked her. Some awkwardly, some with tears they didn't bother hiding. A private paused at the counter. Mom, I'm alive because of you. She handed him a tray. Eat. You'll need the strength. Orders came 2 days later. Elena Ward was reassigned back to combat operations. Not because she asked, because she'd already proven she belonged there. Before she left the kitchen for the last time, she cleaned it spotless. Wiped every surface. Reset every station. Because dignity didn't depend on the weapon you carried. As she stepped outside, rifle slung across her back. Someone called out from behind her. Hey, cook. She turned. The soldier smiled, not mocking. Not careless, respectful. Thank you. Elena nodded once and walked toward the rising sun. Boots crunching on gravel, shoulders squared. They had mocked her as a cook. They remembered her as the reason Red Mesa didn't fall. Subscribe to the channel, Her Brave Stripes, for powerful, emotional military stories about underestimated heroes and unbreakable courage. Speech balloon comment below and tell us, where are you watching from? Your country, your city, we want to know.